Welcome to Pit Stop, guys. Bright sunny day, and I thought I'll make a video. Actually, it's a comparison video. So I've been driving a car, a micro hatchback or micro SUV, I would say. It is extremely comfortable, extremely spacious, economics wise also, comfort wise also, and in terms of the fuel efficiency also, I'm pretty happy with that. So I thought like I'll make a video because so many people came and asked me, how does the Citroen C3, which I'm driving for almost 2 months, compare with the best selling hatchback or micro SUV, which is the Tata Punch. So I thought I'll make a video. This will be a very quick comparison video of these two SUVs. Both are similarly priced, similarly styled, and similarly equipped as well. So let's get into the details. Before we get into the details, please do subscribe to our channel and also hit the bell icon so that you will get all the notifications. And please do follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So first thing first, let's quickly compare how these two cars really look like. In my opinion, definitely the Punch looks even more premium when compared to the Citroen C3. Both these micro SUVs gets a micro SUV kind of styling, I agree that, but the Tata Punch gets 190 mm of ground clearance, while the Citroen C3 gets 180 mm of ground clearance, but similarly styled, similarly priced, and similarly equipped as well. But in my opinion, definitely the Punch grabs more attention because of its higher ground clearance or more premiumness, if you ask me. So why did I say that the Punch looks more premium? Because it gets premium elements. Say for example, it gets alloy wheels on the top variant, and it gets side indicators on the side OVMs. Not just that, it can be electrically controlled as well. This is actually very basic but very essential, if you ask me, on a hatchback kind of a vehicle, because the Punch gets rear wiper. Not just that, it gets rear defoggers as well. But when it comes to the C3, the course cutting elements are very visible. Say for example, even on the top variant, we don't get alloy wheels on the Citroen C3. It only gets a 15-inch wheels, while the Tata Punch gets 16-inch wheels. Not just that, it gets alloys as well. Okay, the second point is that no side indicators on the side mirrors, and the door handles, these are old school door handles, while the Tata Punch gets modern kind of door handles. And not just that, even the side mirrors cannot be controlled electronically. So what's missing on the Citroen C3's rear end is that no wipers, no rear defoggers, and not just that, not even rear cameras. But the Punch gets rear cameras, rear defoggers, rear wipers, and everything as I mentioned. The C3 only gets parking sensors and no rear cameras or rear wipers or rear defoggers. That's very disappointing. So the Punch actually gets more boot space, more in the sense 319 liters of boot space, a decent boot. We can load a lot of things. But when it comes to the C3, actually, the C3 also comes with 315 liters of boot space. So that's like, you know, head to head. There is no comparison, or it's not less or anything. It's like head to head. So it gets a very decent boot space for the Citroen C3 as well. So there is a speciality when it comes to the opening of the doors. The Punch doors can be opened up to 90 degrees, which means ingress will be extremely comfortable, and you can hear the door thud as well. It's you can feel that quality, okay? So when it comes to the C3, this is how much the door will open up. This is almost 90 degrees, I would say, but absolutely fantastic space to get inside the car. So there is no comparison when it comes to this factor, because both the Punch as well as the C3 shines in this particular point, because the C3 is also extremely comfortable. And not just that, the door thud, it is also very much promising. Of course, the Punch is a 5-star rated, global NCAP rated safety car. That means the Punch is built well in a very quality way, so that it ensures safety. But the C3 is no less. It has not got any safety ratings as of now, but you can feel the build quality when you drive. You can feel the weight of the car when you drive. That means that both these cars are pretty safe enough. So where does the Citroen C3 shines when it compares to the Tata Punch is that the Citroen C3 gets bigger wheelbase. That translates into bigger interior room actually. So that's quite a big advantage when it compares to a daily driven car for a small family, right? Yes, so the C3 gets more wheelbase. So we are inside the Citroen C3 right now, and the space you can see is actually fantastic, if you ask me, because this is actually the most spacious car in the segment, I would say, because enough shoulder room, enough headroom, you get height adjustable driver seat, and the seating position is just perfect, I would say. The gear lever is also designed in a very perfect way, because you feel like you are not driving a small car, you feel like you are driving a big car actually. That's the best part. The view is nice, everything is nice, you feel like you are sitting in a bigger car when it comes to the ground clearance as well. But there are a few things I would like to mention in additional on the interiors part. It's a very basic layout of the dashboard, but it's very functional. You get an orange shade with a customization pack on a different car as well, but this doesn't get a flashy orange interiors and all, but there is an option for that as well. But here we get a dedicated space for the mobile, and here you get 2 cup holders. So basically the Citroen C3 gets so many compartments where you can keep all your stuff, and it's very functional as well. Not just that, this 10.25 inch screen is very easy to use. It gets wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and all other features. Even though the music sound quality is not the best, this screen is actually the best, I will say. Not just that, one disappointing factor when it comes to the Citroen C3 is that the instrument cluster, because this feels like the cheapest instrument cluster across the whole world, because it shows only very limited information, and also it looks very basic. So I'm very much disappointed with this instrument cluster. So inside the Tata Punch, again it feels pretty spacious. There are no complaints in terms of the space or anything. You get compared to the C3, the storage compartments are pretty less, but still it's functional and it's pretty useful. No big complaints on that part either. It gets height adjustable driver seat. The seats are pretty comfortable, and it gets a proper full-sized headrest. Not just at the front, even at the rear it gets full-sized headrest, which can be adjusted as well. So bigger points for the Tata Punch. And the next best thing is that it gets a proper full-sized instrument cluster, which looks very neat. If you take a look, you can see the drive modes. You can see on the right it's an analog instrument cluster, and on the left it's a digital display as well. So it's neatly integrated. You can see all the options over there. It looks pretty neat. And not just that, the car feels a bit more premium on the inside as well, because it gets start stop button, and it gets a host of other options as well. We are not comparing the automatic at all, we are only comparing the manuals. Being a test drive car, we have just taken this car, and this is all about the interiors. But the C3 scores on the infotainment screen, while the Tata Punch's smaller screen is actually not the best, I would say, because this is actually not the best to use. Even if you click on the home button, the touch sensitivity and all the other options, even though you get all the options, it doesn't feel the best to use. So that is one point which I wanted to make. And the screen size is also smaller, but it gets a Harman music system. That means you get the best sound quality of all. So this is actually one of the best music system across all the hatchbacks, I would say, because Harman music system is one of the best. So that point the Punch shines actually. But when it comes to the screen and the use of free of usability and all, the Citroen C3 shines over there. So the second row of the Citroen C3, again this is actually very spacious. You don't feel like you are sitting inside a small car. You feel spacious. The headroom is very good compared to the Tata Punch. Even the legroom is pretty nice, and you get 2 dedicated mobile charging ports, USB charging ports. You get a cup holders, and here is where you get the controls for your side windows. So that is again a cost cutting element, because the driver also can access that, the rear passengers also can access if it is here. That's why they have kept it here. But another disappointing factor when it comes to the second row of the Citroen C3 is that there is no handrest. So out on a long drive, you really wish if there is a handrest, because it will be very functional. Not just that, the headrest, you cannot really call it as a headrest. You can only call it as a back support or head support, I would say, because you cannot adjust the head height or whatever it is. You only get a head support. This cannot be called as a headrest. Even the front seats, if you take a look, the front seats are also getting an extended seat, I would say, just for the support of the head. It cannot be called as headrest, while the Tata Punch gets proper full-sized 4 headrest and handrest as well. So there is one more thing actually. If you take a look at the floor of the Citroen C3, there is a small tunnel gap which is there. So if a third person is sitting in middle, actually this car will perfect fit for 4 people only. But in case if a 5th person is sitting on the middle seat of the rear, this will not be the perfect place. But when it comes to the Tata Punch, it gets a flat floor. That means the third person also will be comfortable enough to keep their legs. So that is one point which I want. second row of the Tata Punch, you will definitely feel like it's a bit crampy compared to the spacious Citroen C3. The reason is that the Citroen C3 gets more wheelbase, while the Tata Punch gets a little bit smaller wheelbase when it compared to the Citroen C3. And not just that, even on the headroom part, you feel a bit tight over here on the Tata Punch. But where it goes is that it gets a dedicated handrest, which you can relax. Actually, it gets a flat floor. Even though it gets a flat floor, it doesn't get dedicated USB charging ports like you get on the Citroen C3. So it's kind of a mix actually. You get good things, you get bad things, then again it comes as a mixture. So I feel like here you get flat floor, but you don't get the USB charging ports. But here you get handrest, and here you get dedicated headrest as well, which can be adjusted. So it's like a mix of things. But again, obviously at the end of the day, the Tata Punch is more, it feels more premium, and it feels more feature loaded as well. So I just want to mention one thing, that this video was shot a couple of months back, but Citroen has introduced a new shine variant of the Citroen C3, where as standard itself they are providing fog lamps. We are getting a nice set of alloy wheels on the shine variant itself, and on the inside you get electric ORVMs, and at the rear you get rear wipers, defoggers, rear washing unit for the rear glasses, and also a rear view camera as well. So altogether, if you consider from the shine variant itself, if all these features are available, then this is a killer car, because the car which we were driving back then, before 2 months, it was not having all these features. But right from the shine variant itself, the Citroen C3 gets all these features. So that's a kick-ass thing for the Citroen C3. So actually we are driving the Tata Punch right now. It feels nice. I have driven the Punch earlier, I have told everything about the Punch earlier, but still actually I'm driving the AMT, so I'm not comparing the gearbox at all. I've driven the manual, so I'm just going to give you a very quick comparison of how the car feels. The steering feels quite heavy actually. So inside the city, the C3 feels a bit lighter, but other than that, the Punch actually feels a lot better when it comes to managing the potholes on the road, and on every other aspect the Punch feels nicer. But let's see how the engine performs, because both cars gets 1.2 liter 3-cylinder engine. The Punch makes 86 bhp of maximum power and 150 newton meters of torque, mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox. There is no turbo or there is no second engine option on the Tata Punch. But when it comes to the C3 gets 2 engine options. I'll tell more about the specs and stuff when I'm driving the C3. So right now, driving the Punch, you feel like you are actually driving a big SUV, not like a micro SUV at any point of time, because this feels more alive, and it feels nice to be inside the Tata Punch. Even the suspension setup and everything feels nice, and with 190 mm of ground clearance, you can actually ride across any sort of bad roads, and it's super cool. And the seat comfort and cushioning is pretty nice, because for a long drive you will not have any complaints at all, because the Punch gives you all the creature comforts when it comes to driving. And one thing which is pretty disturbing is that you don't feel that fun element when you're driving the Tata Punch, because the engine feels like it's going out of breath, because it is not the most fun car to drive in this segment, especially when you drive a car like the Citroen C3. Both get similar power, only similar torque figures, similar 5-speed gearbox and all, but the Punch feels a little bit lagging when it comes to the driving part, because especially being such a good mile muncher out on the highways, it needs a little bit more power is what I personally feel like when it comes to driving the Tata Punch. But other than that, the suspension setup, the overall ride quality, the road presence, and the view of the overall road and everything feels so good, so that you feel like you want to spend more time inside the car. So you get all the features as well. So I don't have any complaints when it comes to the Punch, except the only factor as the point that it needs a little bit more power. So I told you C3 will be my choice. So let me tell you what all points which I really like about the C3. First thing is that lighter steering, because inside the city when you're driving the C3 and the Punch, you feel like the C3 is a lot better because of the lighter steering wheel. The car feels light, so that not just light, the car feels powerful as well, and the car goes, if you want a quick overtake, C3 will be the best. The Punch will lag you like this, so it's a best option is to drive the C3, and that fun element is very much missing on the Tata Punch. That's why I mentioned, like, you know, C3 will be my choice. So other than that, it gets 82 bhp of maximum power, 82 or 83 bhp of maximum power, and 150 Newton meters of torque, mated to a 5-speed manual. You have one more engine option in the C3, which is the 1.2 turbo petrol, which makes 110 bhp and mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. We are not comparing that model with the Punch at all. We are just comparing the manual models. So when you do that, the Punch is actually costly. So that is my concerning point. And when it comes to the driving feel, of course I have to admit the fact that the suspension is slightly better in the Tata Punch than that of the C3. But when you drive the car, being on a driver's perspective, I would say that the C3 feels more lively, the C3 feels more powerful, and the C3 goes like this. Even at triple digit speeds, the car still has a little bit more to offer. If you want more speed, of course it will give you. If you want more power, of course it is ready to give you. But the Punch, it's not the case with the Punch. So that is what I wanted to mention. Other than that, the C3 is pretty nice. Even though the car feels a bit spacious and stuff, it has a little bit elements like all these cheap bits and stuff, but there is this beautiful 10.25 inch screen to compensate all those other things. It's a very fun to drive car. A pocket rocket, I would say. I don't know how it feels to drive the 1.2 turbo petrol. I've not driven that car because I seriously want to drive that car, because this basic naturally aspirated engine itself is feeling this much lively and powerful and fun. How much fun it will be to drive the 1.2 turbo petrol is what I wanted to check. So my aspects and my points I have mentioned. When it comes to the C3, as I mentioned, if you want to choose a car to drive from here till Bangalore, I would happily choose the C3 over the Tata Punch at any point of time. So it's been a long day comparing these two cars. So I've been living with the Citroen C3 for almost 2 months, and if you ask me to choose one of these two cars, it's actually a very tough question actually, but still, after driving and comparing on every aspect for almost a day long, I would say the Tata Punch is even more premium in terms of features, in terms of looks, in terms of all the additional elements and safety issues and everything. The Punch looks more premium, and the Punch is actually a better car. But when it comes to the C3, while living with the car, I feel like this is the best option, because when it comes to a proper budget hatchback, the Punch is actually costlier when you compare it with the Citroen C3. Even though this feels cheap, this is okay in this price tag is what I personally feel like, because the interior space is nice, and the driving factor, as I mentioned on my drive review, the drive experience is much more better when it compared to the Punch. The Punch feels a bit heavy, and while it comes to the Citroen C3, the engine is a little more punchy, and also the steering gives you a better feedback, and it's very light to use. So for city use and even on highways, it feels a lot better. Not saying that the Punch is a bad car or the Punch is not the best. The Punch is actually the best selling micro SUV or a small hatchback in this segment actually. Punch has sold in bigger numbers than the C3 at any point, but my personal favorite is the Citroen C3 is what I wanted to make. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. So before ending this video guys, I just want to make one point, which is that the Tata Punch has got a lot of additional offers as well. So if you are looking for any of the additional benefits, please call on this helpline number. And also at the same time, we have got a couple of year-back models available in the Tata showroom. So if you want to check that out, please call on this particular number. So thank you so much for watching guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. So my take will be the Citroen C3 Bye bye. So please do subscribe to our channel and also hit the bell icon so that you will get all the notifications, and please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe my personal channel if you are looking for a Malayalam version of this particular video. Bye bye.
Went up in basements, online a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons